Welcome back to the GreenLight Investor for the week ending November 27th, 2015. Our goal at the GreenLight Investor is to provide a unique resource to make managing your 401k both a simple and easy process. We do this by using a simple worksheet that uses red, green, and yellow cells to help you decide when to buy, what to buy, and when to sell. This presentation is for educational purposes only and should not be taken as personal investment advice. The examples shown will be exactly that. They'll be examples of how you can use this worksheet as an additional resource to help you manage fund choices within your 401k plan. Please refer to your own investment policy and make sure that the choices you make are appropriate for both your investment time horizon as well as your understanding and acceptance for taking risks in financial markets. If you need to pause this and read either of these disclaimers, please take a moment to do so now. Otherwise, let's go ahead and go right into our presentation. This is the worksheet that we prepare each week, and it's meant to be a simple additional resource for you to use to help make fund choices within your 401k plan. On the left side of the worksheet, we list all of the investment choices available to you, and the column headings include the fund number, the symbol of the fund name, and a brief description of the fund. At the top, we start out with the core investment. Those are the index funds. Then we scroll down into the satellite investments, and they tend to be a little bit more conservative towards the top of the worksheet, and they get slightly more aggressive as you move down the worksheet. At the top, you see the money markets, the fixed income, the U.S. growth and income, the U.S. equity funds, the international funds, and at the bottom of the worksheet are the sector funds. Each week we'll also update the performance for each of the funds. We'll show the closing price, the month to date, the quarter to date, and the year to date returns. We feel this is important to take a look at each week so you can see the small changes on week over week basis and be able to compare how your fund choices are doing to other funds that are available within the same category. This is a good way to prevent any big surprises at the end of the quarter, and if there's any adjustments, they're easy to keep on top of. Finally, we'll go to the most unique part of this worksheet, and that's the current weekly trends. We focus in this area around column V, which is the relative strength change. And what that shows is each week which of the funds has been performing the strongest and which one has been the laggard. When we look at the index fund, that gives you a good picture of the overall market. At the bottom, we're going to see that the international funds have been the laggards this week with a negative relative strength, and the U.S. equities have been the strongest performer. We have a neutral rating on the money market, the total bond fund, and the inflation protected bond fund. When you go to the right in column W and beyond, each week we'll give each of the funds a colored cell as well as a numerical value within that cell. The colored cell will tell you whether the trend is positive or negative. If you see a red X, that's going to mean generally to stay away, particularly when you see a number of them in a row. And when you see a green checked green box, that generally means that you have positive performance in the fund, and as long as the green check remains, it's usually all right to stay invested in the funds. The trend scores, the way they work is you'll get, if you have a negative trend, the cell will be red, and you'll have a negative number in the cell. When the negative numbers are getting more negative, it's going to show that the trend of that fund is weakening. And when the numerical values within the fund or within the boxes turns positive, you'll get a green cell. And that will show that the funds are generally getting stronger or heading in a positive direction. As you scroll down the worksheet, you can see that our fixed income is still generally red, with a long-term trend. Right here, column U will show the long-term trend of the fund is still negative. As we scroll down to the fixed income, or to the growth in income, we're going to see that we're starting to see some green, as well as a couple of green cells in the long-term trend. So those are starting to look a little more bullish. They've been red or trending in a negative relative strength for quite some time. As we scroll down to the U.S. equities, we're seeing we had nice strong performance, as we're seeing a lot of green up here. And we're seeing a similar condition in the in the international funds. We've had red for a long time and started to see a little bit of green show up. And now we're starting to see quite a bit more green, and we're just waiting to see some of the confirmation in column U with the long-term trends starting to turn green, and that will confirm the green light situation. And in the bottom, we're seeing, again, we've transitioned from a lot of red to significantly green areas, and we are showing the bullish long-term trend scores starting to appear down column U. So those are looking fairly positive also. That's all there is to looking at the different funds. You can use the scroll bar here so you can identify the different funds. If you'd like to do additional research, simply go over to column K and click on the hyperlink. It'll take you to an outside resource that'll allow you to do a little bit of additional research, including looking at some of the top fund holdings. It'll give you a phone number if you want to get additional research from the fund company itself. All right, with all of that said, let's see how we can use this to make choices within your 401k. To get over to your allocation portion of this worksheet, click on View, go over to Custom Views, and click on the capital letters which say My Current Allocation. Click Show, and it'll take you to a different view of this worksheet that will show you the asset allocations. Here we'd like to be 100% invested, and we are. And we just scroll down here real quickly and see how the investing is. In the white box here, it'll tell you what your target allocation is. In the yellow box, it will show you how you are actually allocated. So to the money markets, we would like to have 10%. We currently do. And that's in case we have a situation that we'd like to put additional resources to work. We have an extra 10% cushion. In the fixed income, we have a 0% allocation right now, and that's what we have, as seen in the yellow cell. The U.S. growth and income, we have a 0% allocation. We are seeing some green, so we may change that in the coming weeks, but for right now, we still have a 0% allocation, and that's exactly what we have allocated. As we scroll down further, we're going to see that the U.S. equities have a 30% allocation. We currently have 20% in the blue chip growth, and we have a 10% allocation in the growth index down here, the Vanguard growth. As we continue to scroll down, we have a 30% allocation to the international funds, and we're currently allocated to the T. Rowe Price International Discovery Fund. If we see another one of the international funds, we may take 10% of this fund and move it towards that. But for right now, that seems to be a pretty good allocation. And as we go down to the sector funds, we have a 20% allocation with 10% and 10%. To scroll over and see if there's any changes needed or any changes that you'd like to consider even for the week, let's scroll over. We'll take a look at these and see what we're up against for the week, if there's any changes needed. Here we have a 10% allocation. We did show a bullish signal before. We did turn bearish, but we still have two green lights, so we could hold on to this. But here we have three green lights, and we have a single green light as well as a strong week-over-week performance. So for this, what I'm going to do is hedge myself a little bit. I'm going to move this one to 5%, and then I'm going to put 5% into this fund. So if this one continues to turn green, we'll have a 5% allocation. And if this one stays green, we'll be okay. We'll keep our 5% allocation. If we see red lights appear down here, we will reallocate this 5% in the next week or two if we do see those changes. So for right now, that'll be the change that we'll make to this allocation. So that's a pretty simple and easy adjustment. Please remember that this is just a spreadsheet. It's a way to keep track of the funds that you actually have in your program. So to make these changes, once we go through this over the weekends, you would go in early next week to log into your actual funds, and make the changes so they match this worksheet. This is a nice simple way to keep track of what funds you currently have allocated and if there's any changes needed. That said, let's go ahead and continue down the worksheet and see if we have any changes. We have 0% allocated to the fixed income, 0% to the growth in income, and here's where I said we're starting to see some of the green up here. We may take some of our funds that are in money market. If this continues to turn green and allocate there, we'll take a look at that as that starts to progress. But here we have a green situation with 2 green lights, so that fund would be fine to go ahead and put money into. And this one has a long-term trend that's bullish. We have 1 green light, and let's see if that changes again next week. So no changes there. The U.S. equities, we currently have 30% allocated. We have 20% that's still showing long-term bullish with several green lights in a row, so we're fine there. We've got a nice uptrend in that. We have a 10% allocation. We again have 3 green lights. The important column is the long-term trend. And again, we have more than 2 green lights, so we have a green or a bullish trend in place for this fund. As we scroll down to the international funds, we have 3 green lights in the fund that we're in, so no change. It's confirmed with 2 green lights with the green dots, and we have 2 green lights with the yellow. So we are seeing a milder uptrend, but we're still in an uptrend, so we're okay to have this allocation. And finally, let's go down to our 20% allocation into the sector funds. We have 10% with 3 green lights and a number of green lights to the right, so we're fine. And in this fund here, we have the 3 green lights, again with 2 green lights with green checks in it, and a number of green lights to the right. So there's no changes needed other than the one that we did at the top. This was our index fund, and again, we kept our 10% allocation to this category, but we just split it between 2 funds instead of the single fund. So with that said, that's all we need to do. Remember, the changes don't happen on this worksheet. You'll have to go into your actual funds at your company, make the changes there, and then just you can update this worksheet to make sure they match. And next week, you just come back in and see if the green lights are still showing that these are the funds that you'd like to be in. Let's go back to our main worksheet. We'll go to Custom Views. Let's go with the Performance column, and we'll click Show, and that takes us back to our home page. If you'd like any additional information, you can go right here, send me an email, and I'd be happy to provide any explanations if you have questions on how you can use this worksheet. You can always click on this website. If you'd like to download a copy of this worksheet for your own personal use, please feel free to do that. There's also a 401k calculator here. If you'd like to click on that, you can go through and see how your 401k is doing on a long-term basis. And also I have a link that'll take you to an asset allocation questionnaire. If you'd like to see a good way to allocate your assets based on your investment time horizon as well as your ability to take risk, if you answer the 10 questions in this questionnaire, it'll give you a general allocation, and then you can make your choices based on those choices and those allocations that are shown at the end of the questionnaire. With that said, that's all I've got for this week. I hope you had a great Thanksgiving weekend. And let me click back here. And again, if you have any choices or any questions, please feel free to contact me. Otherwise, we'll look forward to getting a presentation out next week. I hope you have a great week. Thank you for taking a few minutes out of your weekend to go over this presentation.